Beyond.
You guys have to say beyond.
Yeah, I'll say
Beyond.
Yeah, that was good.
Don't tell me what to say.
excellent.
All right.
Well done, everyone.
Welcome, everybody, to Podcast Beyond, episode 479. We got a great show lined up for you. We've got lots of special surprises and fun treats. We're going to talk a bit about Nioh, which Chloe Rad gave a 9.6, which, according to our mathematics skills, is a good score. Starbreeze is going to be joining up with Double Fine to publish Psychonauts 2, and we got our first look at Alicia Vikander in Tomb Raider, the new movie. Not the Cradle of Life, the newest one, the Cradle of Reboot. Anyway, I'm Max Scoville. I'm joined by Brian Altano, who you know from being on the show all the time. And then from across the pond, we've got Daniel Krupa and Gav Murphy from IGN UK.
Yo.
Hello.
You guys, what are you doing here?
We don't know.
Just hang out.
Lots of people
Laugh,
keep asking
innit?
that. People keep saying, like, why are you guys here? And
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
No, like I feel like explain yourself. Yeah, it was a big waste of money, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just taking a visit.
Yeah. Do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'm sure some of our listeners know you guys from your various podcasts you do, but the one that I see the most appreciation for is Prepare to Try.
Yeah. People really like that.
What's the elevator pitch for that?
It is us guiding our useless friend through a series of really hard games.
He's not useless as, like, just...
No, he's a great friend.
Yeah.
He's a very useful friend.
Oh, he's useless at video games.
Yes,
but he's
I
a
should
useful
clarify.
friend.
Oh no, I'm just slagging him off.
Slag him off now.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was like, people want to play Dark Souls, but they think it's really intimidating. And the idea was like, if you have enough support and help, you can get through it.
Right.
But we don't really give him support and help. We just sort of take
I
the
do.
piss. I kind of stopped looking at it as a Let's Play series a long time ago and just basically just sit there. Basically look at it like a podcast that I can just chat shit.
Right. I was gonna say it's like a podcast that happens to have a video game in the back.
Basically, yeah. Like
Yeah.
we get comments from people saying like they just have it on the background or something like that. Like
Yeah.
they barely watch that. They just listen to us. But because we film for so long, like the stuff that comes out is actually pretty dark.
It's actually
like,
not. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, really? it's horrible.
do you
we have
find
to like
that?
film it
Yeah.
after work 'cause it takes that long.
Yeah,
People are like,
yeah.
you can't do this for your job.
Right.
So we like film like 6-hour sessions.
It's
Because if he
dedication.
gets stuck on a boss, I'll make the next episode.
But
He does it.
That's the thing as well. You can't even. I can't talk about a game for that amount of time, but I can talk about all the sad things that have ever happened in my life, and that's what happens on Prepare to Try.
And, that's why we've commissioned 5 more seasons.
Beautiful.
We actually had a lot of people asking, "What are you going to do next? Have you finished Dark Souls?"
We're doing the DLC from the first game because we
Okay.
never did it at the time. So we're doing that. We still haven't even finished that. And we need to film that. And then
We
after
shouldn't
that.
be
No. Poor Rory. And then we haven't decided yet. But I
Yeah.
think at the end of that season, there will be a teaser.
Are either one of you guys ever going to jump on and play a little bit, or is it always just
No
gonna
one
be
wants to
just
see me play
heckling Rory?
hard games. Like I'm not very good at those games, or games
Really?
in general. And I think like Rory. That's the thing. Rory is actually genuinely very, very good at video games, but he struggles with these games for some reason.
I feel like there's been this like really interesting arc that's happened over the last few years with the Souls games, the Soulsborne games especially, but even going back to like the old Ninja Gaiden and a lot of the Tecmo Koei games, which we'll talk about in a bit, where it's sort of like, it's like this triumphant patch to be like, I'm good at an incredibly difficult game where it's like, I think it's not something people necessarily look for in games. We have so much, like so few hours in the day as is. We have so many people who listen to our show who are like, they're newlyweds or fathers or mothers. And they're like, I have 40 minutes a day to play a game tops. What should I play? And we're like, well, not Dark Souls, but then like, maybe there's something cool about that because you can kind of chip away at it. It's like going to the gym where you just get a little better each time.
I think a lot of people watch the show who will never play it, but they want to see what the fuss is about and see, like, I love those games, but the difficulty, I think, is the most boring thing to talk about those games. The story is incredible, the art direction is incredible, the character design's amazing. And you want to show people that stuff, but it's just buried behind this kind of imposing...
I think also, like, you know quite a lot about the story, so that's really, really good, because I didn't know that those games had such a good story. And I think a lot of it is buried in, like, item descriptions and things like that. So
reading, which Rory hates.
And
it's very anti...
but you can see,
anti-reading.
if you watch the show, you can see us, like, in the first series, like, Rory and I just could not be arsed with that game at all.
Right.
It was, like, kind of a struggle for you to get us into the game when you're just like, guys, seriously, it's good. And we sort of take the piss quite a lot. We were like, what is this game? This is rubbish. And then by the end of the first series, we were just like, okay, that's one of the best stories of any video game. Like, it's all hidden in these little stupid menus.
Well, I think it corresponds with that whole like get good mentality that people have attached to these things. And I think that like we're seeing this interesting sort of shift with like Twitch and Let's Play coverage where people are taking games that are not inherently difficult, like something like Resident Evil 7, right?
Yeah.
Not like really the most difficult game. I flew through it with a couple of like hiccups here and there. But I just saw that somebody put up a 3-hour and 20-minute run on the hardest difficulty with only a knife, which is
of Resi 7.
Of Resi 7, which is very classic Resident Evil, right? Because I remember doing that with the original, with Remake to unlock the infinite rocket launcher.
Yeah.
Just going in, just like knifing only, get to the end in under 3 hours and see what you can unlock. So there's this weird sort of like kind of switch in perspective between people who are playing casual games right now and also people who are playing easy games on the hardest possible parameters, and then people who are playing just games that are just flat out ass-kicking difficult right out the gate. So
it's funny because this sort of genre, the Soulsborne type thing, it had this renaissance. It was, with Demon Souls, everyone was like, this is what games used to be like. It's kind of, this is spiritual successor to like Ghosts and Goblins or Castlevania, something like that. And it's almost as though because people are able to do Let's Plays and Twitch streaming, those things have had a chance to actually flourish because even people who can't necessarily get into them, they have a chance. They have a remote way of.
They have a way in, yeah.
I think it brings back to sort of like harkens back to the days of being in like middle school, where kids would just like talk about games with each other, and people would lie and make up stuff that wasn't real.
Also, like a big thing about Dark Souls, and you were a big fan of Bloodborne, is there are genuine secrets in those games. Like amazing, huge areas that the developer hides. That's something that old games used to have, but now I think most games want to show you everything that they've spent time working on. With Miyazaki and From's like, we'll just hide this whole level.
Or like, you take a turn down a different alleyway that was blocked by a crate, and all of a sudden you're in a completely the Canehurst Castle stuff in Bloodborne.
Optional.
It's completely optional, and it's basically like the best sequel to Castlevania we never knew we wanted. And you just go there and you get your ass kicked by this mad ice king on a roof. And then you're like, what was that all about? And then you're just back in the world. Like we had this whole. I did this whole thing on this show where I talked about how I was never really into those games. And then Bloodborne kind of like was just the right sort of pace and speed for me. Where it felt like actiony and arcadey enough, where I went from being like, I hate this game, this is the worst, to just totally coming around on it.
That was the coolest thing to watch, by the way.
And I think it's been really cool because it's inspired a lot of people who were sort of on the fence for a game like that. And I think in the same way your Let's Play series has done the same thing, where people are like, I didn't know this is something that I could get good at. And then they try it and they do.
It's just the learning curve thing. Like once you get the basics, it starts to like unfold in front of you, and you're like, oh, actually, this isn't that hard at all. It's very different than other games.
I think like some of our best moments have been where Powers is you actually realize, because he started off and he wasn't very good, and like when we fought Artorias the other day, he had like 2 fights in that where I was just like, I said to him afterwards, I was like, that was actually awesome to watch. I know like I've got to watch it because this is work, but I was like, I actually genuinely enjoyed watching you then, which was like, I genuinely enjoyed watching you be awesome at that. Because he had 2 fights where he absolutely kicked his ass. It was really good.
I think it's like if the companies making these games made the bar just the tiniest bit lower at the beginning and then kicked it up from there, like Bloodborne, the first hour and a half of that game whooped my ass. Dark Souls 3, the first hour of that game just destroyed me to the point where I was like, this is not fun. It's not worth it. Like the load times were bad and restarting over and over again.
Bloodborne was terrible when it first came
out.
They patched it since, but
we got tweets from people who were like, here's a cool thing you can do when you die in Bloodborne, just do push-ups for 90 seconds and you'll basically be like Popeye by the time you're done.
That's actually not a bad shout.
Yeah, I know. I think I just ate gummy bears instead.
Just looked at the wall and thought about the past.
Pound shots and weep. So there's actually a new challenger kind of approaching here, which is Nioh, which is kind of it's Team Ninja's kind of entry in this sort of Soulsborne style of gameplay. Chloe, like I said, gave it a 9.6. Loved it. She did kind of review in progress, and basically no one really,
going up.
Nobody really knew what to make of this. This kind of came out of nowhere. It honestly looks like Witcher fan art from a distance.
The main character at least looks exactly like the main character from Witcher.
No,
his name's William. What a rubbish name, but he's based on a real dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was taking the piss out the other day going, what a rubbish name. It's like
William. It's like a British explorer who like went to Japan and became the first British samurai. Like that's a thing.
Well, I know. I'd like
the British bulldog.
The concept of like the sort of like Beverly Hills Ninja approach of like
that was a really big genre in 1780s England.
Like the fish out of water white guy that goes to feudal Japan to be like, what's the ninja stuff all about? Like it's really corny on paper, but it totally works here for some reason. I don't know why.
Typical whitewashing by a Japanese development team. Like I was, I've only seen like a few kind of glimpses of this, screenshots and stuff. One thing that caught my attention is the archery looks fantastic. Like it's got that kind of, it's got the sort of like charge up thing like you have in Tomb Raider, but I don't know. It looks kind of almost faster.
Yeah, and I think that's like the Souls games, and you guys have gone into all of them. In terms of long range attacks and projectiles, they're sort of limited in those spaces. Like they really want you
to get people's attention, use it as a lure.
Yeah. Well, like in Bloodborne, like you get rocks that you can throw at people. You're like, hey. And like this 90-foot horse skeleton comes to fight you. It's like, what the fuck was that? So you have those here. You start with those, but eventually you do unlock archery, which is really cool because you can actually like headshot dudes from like a mile away, and it's just one less thing to worry about.
Yeah. I think interesting your point saying that this looked like uninspired Witcher artwork. Like this game's been knocking around for ages, and not really.
I didn't do that.
One of the lights just went out.
Nobody was really talking about it for a long time, and then people played the beta, got really positive feedback, and it's come out at 9.6.
Yeah, which is like, it's very rare for a game to be in the oven that long and then come out and be that good.
So I think it had a lot of like development problems for ages, and they made lots of changes to it.
Chloe got broken this morning though. I said to her, I was like, wanted to chat about Nioh. I was like, oh, you just play Nioh? She was like, I don't want to talk about Nioh anymore.
Yeah, I think, well, it's like Brandon Tyrell reviewed Bloodborne for us, and he did it on a pretty like intense schedule, and I know like
after he started too.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything worse.
It's nothing like a real job. I understand.
The idea of reviewing one of those games literally terrifies me.
I think what the issue, what becomes difficult about it is that you don't have, like, I started the game last night, and I immediately looked up. IGN had just tweeted like 16 ways not to die in Nioh. And I forget, did you guys do that video?
It was
you guys, right? And it was great. And it was sort of just like, here's, you're going to die constantly in this game, but here's like a 90-second video on what to avoid, which you guys should watch if you're going to jump into this game, by the way. And that means I was already given a head start over somebody who had, started without any guide or anything like that. But on its basis, this game is effectively, I've been calling it like Samurai Bloodborne. Because I feel like it's a little less Soulsy. It's a lot more action, fast-paced. Dashing around is quicker, moving around is quicker. Instead of like picking one weapon from the jump and sort of being married to it, you have two that you can switch between, which I immediately liked. So I found playing through the tutorial stuff that I really like the axe, even though I like to play more like long range, fast paced. There was something just really rewarding about running up on people from behind and bludgeoning the hell out of them. Like, I'm very sneaky in that, like, there'll be a knight and I'm like, I'm gonna hit this guy in the back of the head and I'm gonna run away and hide behind a pole like a baby.
And there's a talking cat in it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Good point. Like, it's like, I thought from the concept art and stuff, it looks really po-faced and serious, but it's not. There's loads of crazy stuff in there. There's like a frog boss.
Yeah, and that's why I was like,
animals.
I was like, I think, I don't know, like Max is my best friend. I'm always trying to pick out good games for him. And I was like, I think he would really like this one because it teeters just between being totally serious and hardcore to, oh wait, this is like really dumb and goofy at times too.
Yeah. So what you told me that got my attention was, first of all, somebody compared it to Ninja Gaiden meets Duke Nukem. And you got this kind of like action hero, like main character, but and weird silly elements to it.
Yeah.
But also, you said the load times are really quick.
They're like half a second.
Like, that's the thing is, when a game is punishing and there's a difficulty there, that's fine. But when the punishment is waiting for the game to load,
that's why Super Meat Boy works so well.
Exactly.
You're instantly back into it.
Yeah, that's
and you can
such
try
a
and
good point.
modify what you did. Like when Bloodborne was really long time, it's like, I can't even remember what I did last time to die. I want to correct it immediately.
Yeah.
Also, like, if you're a bit put off by the difficulty, and like even Chloe saying this is hard, that kind of terrifies me because I've seen her play Dark Souls and she's really good.
She'll go to like Dark Souls events and beat the demo when no one else does. Like, Chloe's great.
But you can play the whole game in co-op, I think.
Really?
Which makes it obviously much less intimidating. Like, I think it makes some of the bosses a bit too easy. But it's like summoning, but you can actually like match.
Oh, good. Now I really want you to play it, Max.
Yeah.
So one of the things I noticed with it is that, the load times happen within a second, and it definitely is a very difficult game. Like, you get beaten around a lot at the beginning, you get killed a lot. But grinding in this game is actually kind of fun because it doesn't feel, I guess because of the load times, because of a bunch of other factors, it doesn't feel as brutally punishing. Like, you'll go out, you'll kill 7 people in a row, and then you'll scurry back to your sort of like orb to recharge, save, upgrade, and stuff like that.
That guy meant to be doing that. There's a guy in the studios. Everyone know this?
No.
Everyone can see this guy, right?
No.
Alexio's, one of the lights went out. Ow.
There we go.
Well, there we go. Anyway.
No, Gavin.
Beautiful.
It's a nice radio drama we do here.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of what keeps people from these games is that they are brutally, unforgiving, and that the sort of like loop of dying and then running back to the spot where you died to pick up your dead corpse orb or whatever, which in my case is a glowing red like Firefox, not like the web browser, but you get to pick like a spirit animal.
You can have a shark, right?
You can have a shark, like a blue shark.
Every time you pick it up, it's like, do you want me to use me as your default spirit animal?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
It was really funny because the first thing I did when I started the main area of that game was I ran directly into the ocean and died.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I watched your guys' video afterwards and it was like, you can't swim in this game, so don't jump in the ocean. I was like, how did they know? So you go back and you get your red fox out of the sea, and then you go back into the world and you start fighting people.
Are you making this up?
Yeah.
No. Yes, someone made this up. It's dumb on paper.
It's not real.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's a game.
It's a video game.
The thing is, like you're saying about it being hard, like it really reminds me of like actual, like when you're a kid and you got like a game on the Mega Drive. Like I always go back to like Altered Beast because my mum bought me Altered Beast, and
I'm sorry.
That explains a lot, honestly.
I love Altered Beast.
What?
It was so hard.
Yeah.
Like, and I genuinely, it was just like I couldn't get past like the first screen of moving. And I was like, well, I've got to, because I'm not getting another game for like 6 months, man.
Yep.
Like, and I was like, my mum's like, we were poor as shit. So it's just like, if I've got a game for 40 quid, that game is being played for 6 months, and that's it. So I was just like, I had to get good at it, because otherwise my mum would be like, why aren't you playing that game I just bought you? And it's like, I don't know.
So your mom was basically saying, get good.
Yeah, essentially. She made up the
Every
concept
day.
of get good, yeah. But it kind of reminds me of that, because like we have so many games and stuff now that you could just go, okay, I'm going to go play something else. But actually, if you really focus on something and really get into it, like you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah. And I think what I like about this game is a lot of the same things I liked about Bloodborne, which is the pacing, but also that sort of like weird gambler's luck of being like, okay, I could run back to safety and level up right now. I have about half my health and no power-up items left.
Yeah.
Or I could take on that guy.
Yeah.
And then when I go back, I'll have enough like orbs or whatever. Amari, I think they're called. I'm totally scripting the name.
Yeah.
And I could level up twice. So you go for that, like roll the dice, and then you get killed, of course, because you're an idiot.
And you go fight
and then you got to fight everybody all over again and do it all over again. But if you're cautious, you can kind of tiptoe out of there. So I like that. It sort of gives it a sort of meta game, which I don't think you really get in a lot of like third-person action games that are sort of just very basic life or death.
Yeah.
So we actually got a question from the Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond or groups.net/Facebook. Malin Hayes says, is the Souls format getting overdone, or do you think it's just the new way action games will play, similar to how every FPS plays like Halo? I mean, like I said earlier, Demon Souls came out and everyone was like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. Right. And Dark Souls came along and it was kind of like, oh, you like Skyrim? Okay, whatever, scrub. Like, I play something that's actually got a real difficulty curve to it. And now it's become kind of commonplace, and we get sort of stuff like Salt and Sanctuary and these games that are more.
They just originated a series of really good mechanics.
Yeah.
Just as lots of video game developers borrow from each other, like a rebounding health bar suddenly becomes the standard and adopted by lots of other games.
Right.
They've just come up with this like set of elements that work really well.
Yeah.
And also a lot of game developers really like these games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why there's lots of Souls-like games, I think, because game developers are really into what they do.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think like one of my favorite games from the last couple of years was Titan Souls. Did you guys play that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my God, what a game. Because you can see like they've taken like the cool bits about Dark Souls and gone, okay, and then put their own kind of mechanic on and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think as long as like developers are still doing their own thing with it, I think like Titan Souls definitely did that.
Yeah, and I think that like what's interesting to note is that this resurgence of like sort of difficult games that have this weird learning curve hasn't completely killed off the more traditional third-person action games. I mean, we're getting Zelda and Horizon within a week of each other, right? And those don't really have Souls-like elements. I mean, I would say Zelda has partial, like you can freeze to death and there's a stamina meter.
Yeah.
But overall, that has more in tune with sort of like Ocarina of Time than it does Dark Souls or something like that. So I think it's good. I was getting a little fatigued on the sort of like Lovecraftian horror stuff, but seeing something jump into, weird Japanese monster lore is a nice shift in sort of setting and art direction.
And then we're getting The Purge, which is basically like it's like a sci-fi futuristic kind of Souls-like. Yeah, you've got like power armor and stuff, which I saw that at E3 and it looks incredible.
Yeah, it's like dystopian RoboCop.
Yeah, it
it's
kind
really
of has
cool.
a Edge of Tomorrow vibe to it. But yeah, the bosses in that apparently are huge. So what I'm curious about with the kind of the Souls type game is what happens when it gets like watered down for kids. Because if you look at like Skylanders, that's kind of a baby Diablo in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What happens when, some developers making a game that's targeted at children and they're like, okay, so how do we take this difficulty curve and make it a little bit more accessible for babies, Because I want to see like what does a cute little Dark Souls look like?
I love that.
There was a game a few years ago where there was like a rat as the main character, a mouse, and it had, I don't think it ever came out, I think it might have like disappeared, but it was like a cutesy Dark Souls where you were like this little cartoon mouse, a bit like Ratatouille.
What?
I'll find it for you later.
That's awesome.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I love that concept, Max, because I think it's like, especially Team Ninja who makes this game, I mean, it takes them like 15 years to be like, we've added easy mode.
Yeah.
Like they're in no rush to do that. I was actually kind of looking for it at the beginning of the menu here because I was like, hey, like, I don't want this to, I've heard this is brutally difficult. Maybe I can play on normal or something like that. Not an option. You just kind of dive right in. So, yeah.
Well, I'm excited to check that out. We got news. This is interesting. Starbreeze, the guys who do Payday, the heist, have partnered up with Double Fine. They are investing $8 million into Psychonauts 2 to publish it. And they're going to be getting 60% of the profits. Double Fine still owns Psychonauts as the IP. But I know that like with Double Fine, there's sometimes kind of that like question of like, how are they going to fund this? Are they going to go to Kickstarter? Right. What's the story here? And Psychonauts is, kind of their big, like ambitious, IP. And it's kind of cool that they're doing this.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, Payday was, quite a payday for them.
Yeah, it's got $8 million.
What should we do with this?
Yeah.
I've always really liked Psychonauts.
Payday reminds me of like Persons of Interest or whatever, that show where you're like, it's immensely popular and I don't know a single person who watches it.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Every year we go to E3 and you walk into the main hall and on the right in the hallway leading in is this big ass booth for Payday or whatever new version of Payday there is or the Payday DLC, and there's like clown bandits running around with guns. Like someone is into that. It's someone is buying those games. Somebody is funding those games. Is buying the DLC. And
they're always
like
partnering with other people and stuff as well. Like I think they've just done one with Shadow Warrior.
Yeah,
that sounds so right.
Yeah,
like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's very odd.
They had like a really weird one that was like famous bank robbers or something, or like Halloween masks or the presidents or something. It was something very strange.
So like, is this okay? Can we do this?
This deal is fascinating to me because I'm not sure exactly who is going to...
Who's benefiting? Like, obviously Double Fine are benefiting because they've got $8 million, but like...
Yeah, and they get to make their game.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like giving $8 million to Double Fine is not good for them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they need to be sort of held back quite a lot.
Right. I mean, and it's also...
Or they just run amok.
If you look
Giving them $8 million, they're just going to be like, we'll do whatever we want.
Which is kind of cool.
It's like Rocket 3. They got to
I love that.
Well, we'll never see this game, basically.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I hope we do because I love 3D platformers. I think the two things. One, the first Psychonauts I think was in such a like right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It was sort of where we were on the tail end of the kind of death of the 3D platformer, and there was still some life in it. It happened to do really well. It was multi-platform. People loved it. And then the IP went away for a while, and now we have a couple 3D platformers kicking around at the same time. So I'm interested to see how it does. Two, I think people look at $8 million and they're like, oh my God. But it's like, if you look at any Kickstarter, that's once you actually see what it costs to break down to make a video game, it doesn't get you anywhere. Yeah. I mean, look at Mighty Number 9. That got overfunded and it wasn't enough to make whatever they were trying to make.
You don't make a video game in like 2 weeks. So that's like $8 million broken down into salaries, for multiple people. So that's exciting. It's also, is this Double Fine's first sequel?
Question.
I know they typically kind of try to like really mix things up and stay interesting and fresh. But
well, it's not even the first Psychonauts sequel because we're getting by the end of this month we're getting the Psychonauts VR thing.
I mean, you could chalk that up to being a weird Double Fine mutation of a previous thing.
Yeah.
So.
But the cool thing about this is that apparently they're taking design cues from like the classic Rayman platforming games, which is like a very interesting like N64 platformer that has somehow made its way to a whole bunch of different platforms, and I don't think it's as good as people remember it is, but it's always there. Like it was there for the DS launch and the 3DS launch and a button. They're like,
it's just really easy to port.
Yeah, I think it's easy to drag and drop that game to new systems. So
Ubisoft.
Yeah. But people have fond memories from that. I mean, I love 3D platformers in general. So,
okay, so we got photos of Alicia Vikander. Am I saying that right?
Alicia Vikander?
Vikander?
I don't think it matters.
Anyway, she's playing Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider movie reboot, and she looks exactly like Lara Croft did.
Well done, Alicia.
Yeah.
Well done.
They found the right color tank top and some brown pants. She got her all muddied up and put her on a zip line. They've also got Walton Goggins from Justified and Dominic West from The Wire in there. We had this exact same conversation about a year and a half ago with the casting of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Which, have you guys seen that?
Yes. Yeah.
How is it?
Have you guys seen it?
No.
So it's just boring.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's bad.
It's not a bad film.
And I think they've done the well-intentioned thing where they said you can have these characters in this world and do your own thing. Don't try and make the game. Don't adapt one of the games. Make an original character and an original story. Obviously, it riffs off a lot of the mythology, and they've innovated new stuff. Like the Animus is totally different. So I think that if you're going to make a video game adaptation, do that. Don't try and recreate the game because that's pointless. The game's going to be better. Yeah. But it's just really serious and boring. It doesn't have fun with it.
Yeah,
like you're watching and going, I should be more excited by everything I'm seeing, but I'm not. Like this looks cool, but it's not. It doesn't excite you.
It's odd that we're in a place where boring is actually breaking new grounds for the video game movie, because video game movies are always bad.
Yeah,
and it's kind of better when something is just bad because then you can identify why. I mean, it was like I like the Ghostbusters remake that came out last year. Like it wasn't a good movie and it wasn't a bad movie. It just was sort of flat. Yeah. And I said like going in, I was like, that's the worst thing that this movie can be is just like forgettable.
Yeah.
And like taking something like the Assassin's Creed franchise and just making a boring film out of it is kind of bums me out because I would rather see a bad Assassin's Creed movie.
Yeah.
Where he's jumping off a roof and he lands on a bird and it scraws and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was getting into a really weird argument in the pub because there was a guy who'd just seen Assassin's Creed and he was like, oh, it's such a shit film. I was like, and I was like defending it, going, no, it's not a shit film. It's just boring. Leave it alone. I was like,
when people say that, it's like you need to see more properly balanced movies. It's average, and that's actually quite damning for all the people and the talent involved. Like Fassbender is a great actor, but he doesn't have much to do in this. Like I think Ubisoft are doing the right thing with all the movies they've greenlit. They're trying to get interesting, talented people on board, and that's all you can do with any movie. Get all the talented people together, and hopefully it works. But that one just doesn't quite. Like I think Tomb Raider is a bit more of an easy setup. Like there's a very well-established format for that movie, and it's Indiana Jones.
Right.
And you also know what universe it's in. It's in tombs and reality. You're going back in time through your ancestors'
That's
VR
a really
headset or whatever.
hard sell.
Yeah, they do the whole like Apple of Eden thing in Assassin's Creed, and it's a bit. Even though I kind of know that, I was watching it going, do something else.
It made me realize how good the Matrix is at setting that stuff up in a movie that's probably half an hour shorter.
It's long too.
It's about 2.5 hours. Assassin's Creed.
I think I mean like, and I actually started this year, I believe, on this show and on Up at Noon, being like, hey, 2017 is gonna be the year where I pretend to stop getting excited about video game movies. I'm not gonna look in the camera and amp these things up because there's a significant chance they won't be what we want them to be.
I'm impressed you'll last until 2017.
Yeah,
that's the 20th anniversary of Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Well, it was 19 years of lying to the camera and being like, hey, maybe this will have a chance.
Maybe this will.
But I mean, because I want these things to be good. You know, I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan.
Well, it's like the precedent is like comic book movies were terrible for ages.
Yeah,
and then they get good.
Like, how do video game movies get there? Like,
I think they're doing the same thing. They're hiring better filmmakers to make them. They're getting better writers, better talent involved, which will command bigger budgets. Budget's not always the guarantee, but I think it'll happen.
It's about picking the right video games as well, like, because they're just picking the ones that, as you said, like, this is Indiana Jones, so it's like weird how do you make that without it being just a shit Indiana Jones film?
Well, a few years ago we got Seth Rogen into the London office and he played Last of Us for us, and between setups I was talking to him because at the time he and Evan Goldberg were attached to make the Uncharted movie. I was like, just like casually, like, how's that going and stuff, and they was like, we literally can't think of a way that's not Indiana Jones. Like, we're trying to write it and every time we write it turns out to be Indiana Jones. Like, and obviously they were the games are inspired by Indiana Jones. So if you then put that back onto film, it looks hopelessly derivative.
So funny. Yeah, because I mean, when you play the games, you're playing those games because we don't have good Indiana Jones video games to play these days.
Yeah.
So it's filling that void there, but dragging it back to where we do have good Indiana Jones movies. I mean, I have Amazon Prime. They're all the Indiana Jones movies and Crystal Skull are on Amazon Prime right now, and you can just watch them, and like you're like, okay, I'm good on Uncharted movies right there. You guys could probably make a show just interviewing people who have been attached to the Uncharted.
Well, there's so many of them now. Like David O. Russell, he's walked off now, isn't he? Because that was when it was going to be like
Mark Wahlberg was like, Robert De Niro's going to play my dad. And you're like, what?
Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
Are we remaking? I can't think of a way not to make it Goodfellas.
It was Goodfellas in the Jungle is a movie I would watch.
That sounds like an interesting
get back on it.
There was a tweet a couple weeks ago from the guy writing the screenplay for the movie. He was just like, here's the cover of it just said Uncharted the movie by me, and it was like, well, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like,
is there a script in there?
Yeah, it's like saying like today is the first day of the rest of your life. You're like, great fortune cookie. That means nothing. I wonder if they'll watch the Tomb Raider movie and take some cues from there.
Yeah.
They've had this back and forth going for so long. People hate when I say that, but
I think Tomb Raider obviously has another thing going for it is
it's being filmed.
It's being filmed. That helps. But also like Lara Croft is one of the few game characters that I think
Everybody knows.
a mainstream audience recognizes.
Yeah. There's probably 5 video game characters that you could just pull some random person off the street.
I think it's really hard for anyone in this room and probably listening to the show to have that kind of greater awareness. But like I always use like people in my family as a good like benchmark, and they know who Lara Croft is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when it's also sort of like it's like Nolan doing Batman after we had the Schumacher Batman movie. It's like we've seen where this can go bad.
That's a good point, yeah.
With Angelina Jolie, which I mean they weren't
even that bad.
They're not even that bad movies. They're just like very kind of campy, cartoony.
Yeah.
They're very early 2000s.
I mean, at the very least, it was Angelina Jolie playing Lara Croft. So it's like a whole lot of like teenage boys were really happy about it.
Yeah, it was visually interesting.
Poster.
Yeah,
it really was.
But I mean, I think it's with making a video game movie. There's 2 directions you can go. Either you pick something that has such a deep world that putting it on film is actually innovative. Like, I mean, seeing a faithful Metal Gear movie, maybe a little bit toned down on story, but I mean that would be like The Rock, but with mechs instead of Ed Harris, that sounds exciting. Or I don't know, Bloodborne or something like that. Like we don't have a movie that exists like that.
Yeah. I think Warcraft tried to do that, but I don't know Warcraft well enough for any of that to resonate with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, conversely, we have Lord of the Rings. Like we have stuff that has big epic battles and orcs and swords and crap like that. The other way is to take something incredibly familiar like Tomb Raider, which we do have a framework of Indiana Jones movies. Like there's kind of a cinematic narrative in place already of like, oh, what's going to happen here, and maybe they totally rip it off, but in the same way that we're getting these kind of, they're not quite reboots, they're kind of sequels, like in the way that Force Awakens borrowed from like the original Star Wars, or Creed borrowed from like the first Rocky movie. I think if you take something like, okay, it's a more obvious wink and a nod to the source material, but still trying to set itself apart, like I don't know. Tomb Raider also, it's a lady who goes into tombs and swings around and climbs stuff and looks for treasure. But like there's kind of like there is deep lore there to dig into. Yeah. But I don't know anybody off the top of my head who knows that.
No. I played the latest game recently. I couldn't really tell you what the actual plot is.
Oh yeah.
There's that large man you have to save. And you're like, it's that guy from the first one.
There's a lot of stuff in the new ones about her father as well, and Dominic West is playing her father. Presuming like flashbacks maybe. So I guess it's going to tap into some kind of family narrative.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's like what makes me hesitant to be excited about these things is that so much of what works in Uncharted and Tomb Raider is that sense of discovery, of that sort of like personal sense of discovery of like, oh, there's a glimmer up there. I can get there. I can solve how to get there. Tomb Raider, especially with the sort of all the strange weapons and mechanics that you can upgrade, zip lines and ropes that you can get all over the place. That sounded gross. And like, I don't know how that translates to a movie, right? Like, is there a scene where she just like looks up and she's like, I can get up there, and there's like 20 minutes of her climbing there? I mean, there's no threat. She'll never get a tree will never impale her in the film like it does in the game. So
I mean, take like the scene where Schwarzenegger gets ready to fight the Predator and makes a bunch of traps and stuff.
That's cool.
And then throw in the bear from the Revenant.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the Revenant.
And then make it a beautiful woman who has to fend these things off. And
okay, now I'm sold.
Maybe there's some fancy.
I'm excited about this video game movie.
I don't know. I mean, that's what's so funny is meeting gamers who haven't seen Indiana Jones is like, oh, you like Uncharted, and you have not seen these. Okay, like how do you excuse that?
Well, it was like having to explain to people who love The Last of Us, like, oh, you should see Children of Men in the Road, and they're like, what are those? I'm like, what? They're The Last of Us. They're the 2 ingredients that made The Last of Us, like quite specifically.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how do you take set pieces that are impressive in a game
that are cinematic in a game?
Right,
like
exactly.
they are like very cinematic. Like they move a camera like a movie camera.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's exciting to think about. At the very least, the photograph of her on set sure is enough to have us talking for the last 10 minutes about video game movies. So I've been playing Yakuza 0, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm probably 10 hours into it right now, and I've never played a Yakuza game before, and it's phenomenal.
That's like everyone on my timeline is saying that. I've never played a Yakuza game before. I've got this one. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's
like, so much crazy stuff in it as well.
It's so weird. It's so goofy. Also, like, my favorite thing about it is it is the weird Japanese opposite of Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. Like, you can't drive cars in this. There are cars, but there's no room to drive them because you're in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And then whereas like GTA, like in the first 4 minutes you have a handgun. There it's like, hey, look, there's been a murder. And you're like, what? There's been a murder? A murder in Japan? Get the hell out. And then at one other point, they're like, hey, would you kill somebody? And you're like, no, I have to think about this. And you're like, I just beat up a man with a motorcycle. Like I spun it around and then I drop kicked him in the face. And I'm like, I don't know if I can kill him. So it's got these like incredibly like hyperbolic like anime sensibilities. Yeah. But then it's also like weirdly wholesome.
I love that because GTA is like, hey, can you kill 40 people on the way to killing this other guy?
Yeah.
Like it's totally
but I have a lot on. I've got my today.
I got to play billiards.
Our colleague Joe's been playing it. I went around his house the other day. Like, turned up to his house on like a Saturday night hammered. Yeah. And he was playing it. He was like, "You got to see this." And I watched him play it for about like 25 minutes. And the next day, I woke up. I was like, happen? I was just texting going, did this bit happen? He's like, yep, that's real.
What do you remember seeing?
So the karaoke bit. So basically, the karaoke thing is amazing. So this is quite serious game. And then you go into a karaoke place and he basically, if there's a song where there's a guy singing it, he sings it and he goes nuts for it. But if it's a song with a girl singing it, the waitress gets up and sings it. And then like your Yakuza guy is basically like some weird hype man who just like shouts out words now and again. It's bonkers.
Yeah, also it's a totally actually challenging rhythm game.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
Like I love Sleeping Dogs, and that had a karaoke segment, but it was like a really kind of very, very dumbed down version. And this is like I suck at it. Yeah, it's really hard. But then if you keep going, it does the thing where it puts you in like a bad like stock photo background as you like rocking out and that's like one of the many weird mini games. There's also like there's Mahjong, which I don't know how to play. I was trying to play it and I was like, You
were telling me there's like an arcade with a bunch of classic Sega games like Outrun.
Yep. You can just play Outrun.
That's so cool.
There are like UFO catcher claw machines. And they don't really serve a purpose aside from like a few little, like there's a little girl I had to get like a pink squirrel for. And then like bad guys tried to mug her. And so I had to beat them up with a bicycle.
What? All this stuff, you're like, did this stuff really happen?
It's just like, it's wonderfully absurd. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. Also, like I was expecting it to be like kind of obtusely Japanese and just, there are incredibly long-winded cutscenes and like very kind of self-serious bits. And then they'll be like, hey, look at that naked guy over there. His name's Mr. Boner or whatever. And you're like, what?
We're going to see this game like at the end of the year when people start doing their like top lists.
Right.
We're going to see this in like top threes and stuff like that. Like,
really?
People are going nuts for it.
I have it downloaded and I just haven't started it yet. And you guys are totally selling me on it. I got to jump in there.
Also, like I got a code for it, and I guess it was one of those deals where like it's the the pre-order bundle bonus or whatever. Like you never really know what you're getting. But I went to this shrine and there's a clown there. And the clown is like, oh, hey, you probably want some of these things. And I'm like, what things? What do you want? And they're all these like weird, like, there's like the Dragon of Dojima pack or something. And you open it and I'm like, what are these? And they give you a bunch of energy drinks. And then I got this thing called a slime gun, which is a shotgun, but it shoots like green slime and it makes dudes
They don't give a shit, do they?
No,
that
like
doesn't make it in.
Yeah, it's complete. Like there's no like ludonarrative dissonance. They don't even care.
Yeah.
This sounds like somebody like found you in your sleep and pulled your dream out of your mind.
Yeah, there's like a meeting going, we've got all these unlockables. How do we like convey them to the character? Just clown.
Clown in a temple. Move on, Gerard.
Well, I've done a drawing of a clown. Can we use this somewhere? Yeah, why not? Let's go to the pub.
It's great. Also, it has the most alcohol product placement I've ever seen in a game.
Really?
Yeah, they have like different brands of scotch, and then there's like Mountain Dew, and like you can get like Lafroig. And
Did they pay for licensing for that?
I think so.
How does that work?
I think so. I think it's
weird. Or maybe they got given money.
Maybe. Yeah. I think it's kind of like how there's Top Ramen in Final Fantasy or Calorie Mate in Metal Gear, but.
Because you never really see that in American games. Like, there's not really like licensed alcohol. You see products every now and then. Like, I remember like the Monkey Ball games just had like Dole bananas everywhere. And, like Pikmin has random like Duracell batteries.
like French games, Rayman's just smoking.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Newport Lights. It's like smoking a basketball. But you don't really get that. Like, American games are always just like, it's been a hard day. Time for a good Buffalo beer. And he just like cracks open this thing that has like a cartoon eagle on it or something like that. That's great.
Yeah, no, this one you go to a whiskey bar and be like, Lafroig, people love it for its smoky flavor. And I'm like,
that's how they pay for that game.
Yeah. That's really funny.
Also, it doesn't really like vilify the Yakuza. It's kind of like, it's like being in a cool club. And like, maybe there's crime involved, but they're not really like, oh, you're going to get back with the mob. They're just like,
maybe the whole thing is like a recruitment video.
Kind of, maybe. I don't know. Or they
really
just don't want to
funded it.
They don't want to piss anybody off.
No, Mitch Dyer and I were in Tokyo a few years ago, and I told the story on the Comedy Button. But we went to this bar and in Golden Guy, and there was like it's the kind of bar that can only fit 3 people. And it was me and him and this bartender, and we just got really drunk. And then about 3 hours in, he just took off his shirt and he was like, "These are my tattoos. I'm in the Yakuza and I do MMA." And we were like,
Locked door.
And I was like, but he's a really nice guy. And it was like, you know what? Maybe I should rethink my whole fear of the Yakuza thing.
Cool,
yeah.
Maybe they're good people after all.
Yeah. So anyway, I highly recommend that. I cannot wait to play more of it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a real good time.
Good year for Japanese games.
Yeah, right?
Like, surprisingly good year. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised by that. They originated this video game shit, but
I think there was a well done Japan.
Japan's just been biding its time. Don't worry, we've got games.
Well, I think there was a period where they were trying too hard to westernize certain things, sort of missing the mark, and then I don't know, like I mean, Resident Evil 6, for instance, was like where they're like, we need to make something like Call of Duty, and it's like, no, you don't. Like,
you don't.
Something scary in a barn. Anyway, Injustice 2 is the IGN first for this month, and we have wonderful footage of Black Canary jumping around, hooting and hollering, doing some kicks and punches,
beating people up.
Yeah, this game looks gorgeous. What do you guys? What's your take on Injustice?
I love the idea of it, and that and Marvel Capcom later in the year are the only kind of fighting games that I think I'd actually play.
Right.
I know you guys did videos a couple of years ago for Street Fighter where you're like trying to learn how to like play these games. Like, I'd love to be able to do it, but I just don't think I have the discipline to learn.
You honestly, it's like getting a personal trainer. Yeah. Like that's the way we got into it. Was Max and I sat down with 2 pros. We learned how to get much better at that game, and it's night and day between. You know, we were talking earlier in the show about the Souls games. Like, I honestly feel like fighting games are the same. They're the same sort of barrier. I think they're easier to fake. Like, you can go in and just mash and be like, I'm a pro.
And that's like having the skin of the DC universe is the thing that will get me to play this in the office. We'll play at lunchtime and stuff. I don't think I'll get really deep into it, but like, I can imagine us playing that for a few months.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of people like, there's a bar that we drink in back in London called the Loading Bar, and like one of the guys who helps run it is like really good at Street Fighter. And the girl who's like the manager was like, I want to get good at Street Fighter.
Right.
So like in between sort of running this bar, he's teaching her how to be really good at Street Fighter. And I saw her play the other day, and she's amazing at it. So I think I kind of like the idea of like learning how to play Street Fighter.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool. So I think that like a lot of people
new appreciation for it, because like when you watch competitive gaming, I think Street Fighter is really good to watch. All fighting games are good to watch because it's very simple to see who's winning, who's losing, and see the immediate drama. And if I watch like Dota, I wouldn't. What's going on?
Like
Street Fighter is very simple, but like if you understand what's actually happening on the like deeper level, you have a massive appreciation for what they're actually doing and the skill involved.
When they started explaining to us like sort of like hitboxes and reach and being like, oh, you know, like Dalsim's hand can reach to right longer than everybody else's hand, but right to right here versus this person over here versus Cammy's kick. Like, this is when you use this move and when you use this move, and I'd never thought like that before.
Yeah, that's the thing though, because we're all nerds. Like, that kind of stuff like really gets me jazzed.
Yeah.
Ooh,
when people get really into stuff.
Yeah.
Have you guys screwed with Injustice at all? Like, did you play that, the first one?
No, but I watched a lot of people play.
I played it for a little while.
So the story stuff is amazing.
Yeah, I reviewed that game, and I went in being like, all right, DC, whatever, it's Mortal Kombat with DC guys, that's going to be fine. And then I completely loved it because it was just one of the goofiest games.
Okay.
Like, my selling point for the first one was you didn't have like a fatality exactly, but like a special move. Yeah. For Aquaman, he would summon a tidal wave that was just full of all kinds of different fish, and it would just like come through the wall, and then a shark would come over and bite your enemy. But it would work anywhere. So you could be in a space station and this title would come through the wall. And I was like, they totally were like,
they don't care.
Screw it.
Yeah. Well, like I was super into comic books as a kid, and I used to collect comic cards, Marvel cards, and stuff like that. And they all had like hero stats and villain stats in the back. And you would get in debates with your friends, like who would win in a fight. And this game has perfectly realized that weird middle schooler's argument dream of sort of being like, me and my friend are yelling at each other about whether or not Aquaman could summon fish through a space station wall. And he can.
Yeah.
Who said he
also,
couldn't?
like when you take two action figures and you bash them together, like you're fighting, like that's kind of the perfect balance for for superheroes. So I'm really excited about Injustice 2. Alec Gonzalez says, what characters do you want to see in MVC Infinite and Injustice 2? We don't really know a lot about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
We know mostly who we're not going to see, unfortunately, because it's of licensing.
Yeah, like they were very coy about that. Like I went to the Capcom Cup at PSX and I spoke to the people making Marvel Capcom, and they were saying that I think X-Men will figure in some sense, but I don't know when and what characters. They wouldn't say no, and obviously they won't want to say that when they're announcing the game. But I think they are figuring in it somehow.
Well, they're probably on the phone and Fox is like, you can have Morph from the animated series and then maybe like the Blob's leg.
Well, they're just going to kill them off. It's like, oh no, the entire Capcom universe has killed the X-Men. Only the Marvel heroes can save the day.
It'll just be like a painting in the background. It'll be like, man, we really lost some good friends this year. Anyway.
And one tiny picture of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Not even worth addressing.
No one cares about
Well, it's like when you're like listening to hip hop and it's like featuring Kanye West and he just talks for 4 seconds at the beginning. You're like, you didn't even rap. I thought you were going to rap.
Yeah, I'm it's weird because I'm like a, dyed in the wool like Marvel kid, but I find Injustice like way more fun.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like MVC is a more serious fighting game. It's all combo based.
Oh, when you play MVC, like I'm a big Marvel fan, and I got the last one, and when you start picking it, and even picking your characters is difficult because it gives you options for each one. I was like, I don't know which one is the Omega counter.
Yeah, me and Kim
like, what is that? I just want to play as the Hulk.
Yeah, we tried to play Marvel vs. Capcom on the bar last night, and it was like takes about 5 minutes before you get into a fight. It's just like pick this. It was like, I just want to beat him up.
Yeah. I just want to kick people in the head.
Yeah,
it's superpowers.
Too much. On the flip side, like the fact that in Injustice, it's just like also the fact that it's not really faithful to the source material. Like they're kind of their own universe and they're okay with that. They're like, why would Superman and Wonder Woman fight? Well, because he's evil this time because of the time warps.
Yeah, somebody just go with it.
Just fight him.
It's literally the principle of the game.
When he died, he came back as like 7 different Supermen, and one of them was like a green ghost, and one was a cyborg. Just roll with it, dude.
Yeah, figure it out. So that's fun. You guys played around with ukulele.
Did.
You have a note here that says, don't play ukulele with a hangover because that game is noisy as F words.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Well, they came in to show us like a new build of ukulele. We just put some gameplay of it up on the site, actually. It's like what was it called? Casino,
Capital Casino, which is one of the 5 worlds. It's kind of like this casino Las Vegas style environment.
So we got to play that and also a bunch of like the mini games. Look, there's like 4-player local co-op games in there.
Weird.
Like, they're really good. Like we've got we did 3 Let's Plays that are going up sort of the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we were really hungover when they came in, and they came in really early. And like, it's nice when people come and show you their games.
Yeah.
But I was so hungover, and like we kind of like one of the guys working on it, Andy. Like I used to work with him, so we kind of know each other a little bit. And I was just like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, like. We'd have to play this game with the volume turned really down because it's such a noisy game. Like everything makes a noise in that game. Like
it's all squeaking and honking. And stuff like
it's
that.
like honking.
Yeah, as it should. Like,
such a good description. Everything honks to fuck. Like everything makes a noise in it.
We have we have a lot of negative stigmas in America right now, but a big one is that we're all like fat, drunk alcoholics.
Yeah.
You guys talk about booze like every 4 seconds.
Yeah.
It's kind of incredible.
Have you seen some of the videos we made on IGN where we're literally drunk on them?
Have you seen those videos?
I keep saying literally.
Yeah, I had to edit them, and it was the hard. We did a series called
Drunken Master.
Yeah, for Street Fighter, we did a thing called Drunken Master, which was basically us getting hammered, playing Street Fighter 5's new story mode, and then like drunk history style, trying to tell the story of what happened in it. And it's just like, what happens in those
couldn't
games
even
is
listen to
nuts
it sober.
anyway. Exactly, yeah. So us getting hammered and then trying to do it was just like...
So do you guys have the sort of like a connection to the old 3D platforming games?
Grab by the Ghoulies is one of my favorite ever games.
Really? That one?
I loved Grab by the Ghoulies.
It's weird when he says that. That one comes out.
Yeah, nobody liked Grab by the Ghoulies. I freaking loved it.
I think so. Here's the thing with that game. It was part of that rare partnership with Xbox, and it was like when they first got moved over there, I think a lot of people were upset. And like, had that been one game in between, or sort of a footnote in between the rest of the amazing 3D platforms and afterwards, different story than what we got, which was basically avatars and Kinect Sports. But this one looks cool, and it's coming to PS4, and I think it's we talk about 3D platformers a lot on the show because it's just our age.
This was my favorite genre when I was growing up.
Yeah,
we grew up in the era where a lot of those games existed, and a lot of it was the thing that you like. I had so many versions like Looney Tunes platformers, and it was like. It's kind of cool that they're coming back, and it's nice that this one has been made by the people who worked on all of those games.
Yeah,
like this is made by the people who made Banjo, and they left Rare because that kind of game wasn't being made there anymore.
Yeah, and they got David Wise to do the music. Like they got the band back together on this, like quite literally.
We did a bunch of interviews with them when they first sort of made the studio.
Yeah,
and it was this amazing moment. Like I don't think we actually used it because but there's this like everyone who's on it is like kind of like Northern, so they're really sort of like deadpan, really like softly spoken. And there's this one guy, he was basically like, he's the designer on all of it. I can't remember what his name is, but he's a hilarious guy. And he was just like, the interview was so boring.
No. So this guy is the guy who did the character design for Ukulele. And he also did the character designs for the Modern Kong family.
Yeah, he invented the Modern Kong family.
And Cranky Kong. Like those character designs that you now use are his.
The Modern Kong family.
Yeah. That's how he thinks.
We have to reinvent all this one.
But so we were just like sort of talking to him, and it was just such a because he's a really boring guy. I don't think he minded saying that, like because he's just a normal dude.
Well, because he puts all his energy into making colorful monkeys wearing neckties and stuff.
But he's just like dead. So we're like, so what were you doing at Red? And he was just like, I was designing t-shirts. He was literally making the t-shirts in Kinect Sports. And he was just like, and I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. So I wanted to make a game.
And a chameleon.
So what's cool about this game that I think if you haven't played a 3D platformer in a long time, you probably forget that this is it's basically like a sandbox game with 5 sandboxes. This is not really like a sort of like level based.
No, it's not at all. Yeah.
You walk into a world and you're like, I don't really know where to start.
I think that's the thing. I think there's a big emphasis on the player to make their fun. Like, oh, do you want to go do this over here, or do you want to find this? And I think it's very much dependent on the player to kind of stitch that together and have the best time.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested to see like how kids react to it as well, because like my nephew's getting really into video games now, and he's never played that kind of game before. Even though I think he'd be attracted to it, I don't know what he'd really make of it.
It's
because we grew up and we were like,
we grew up with
conditions,
stuff like that, right?
You know how this stuff works.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like you get it a little bit with like stuff like Jack and Daxter and Sly Cooper and stuff like that. But the moment to moment being like, I'm not necessarily doing the same thing in varying degrees. Like 1 second I'm trying to collect all the puzzle pieces on a slide, and the next second I'm in a weird time sequence where I'm trapped inside of an arcade cabinet. And after that, like it's a music rhythm game. Like you're not really playing the same thing over and over. So I think this game's strength will depend on how well it's able to do all those things individually.
And I think it knows what it's doing. Like it throws all the stuff that you'd love in there. There's like a minecart section, and right at the end of the footage that you can watch on IGN, Ukulele, like the characters transform into a helicopter. So they actually go on this like body transformation, and the person that gives them this transformation is a woman that has spliced herself with a squid. And she's like horribly deformed.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds terrifying.
She's actually quite pretty.
She's quite pretty.
For a horribly deformed squid lady.
You guys are very weird.
I want to see a David Cronenberg ukulele movie now.
She like split down the middle squid or like bottom squid, like
bottom squid, top lady.
And she's got tentacles. Okay. She's got tentacles coming off her chin.
And
if that put you off.
And her head's in a fishbowl and there's a fish in the bowl.
Yeah, that's a deal breaker for me. Because you can't do kissing.
Is it like a health thing or like a fashion thing?
Well, she seems to be having a good time. Okay. Maybe, yeah.
So are you guys into this? I mean, not the squid lady, the video game.
I think I am. It's very noisy.
Yeah.
It's just not when you're...
And he's hungover a lot. So
but like the
never show its way meat.
There's a Micro Machine style mini game in it that we played.
Really?
I really liked that. That was good.
There's like little cars driving around?
Yeah, you're cars.
Cool.
You're driving cars.
Ooh.
There's the whole like multiplayer section, because there's a character in the game who owns an arcade.
Rextro.
And you can go and
Rextro?
Play it's like a dinosaur.
Nice.
Rextro's retro arcade games. That's what his job is. Generally, it sounds like I'm making shit up.
Yeah, I saw in the PSX demo there was just this giant arcade cabinet, and they're like, "You can't go there yet. We're not done."
That's like a hub for him.
But you'll get there.
Yeah,
it's like, ooh, that sounds cool.
Awesome.
Good stuff. I like it when the animals hang out together and turn into different flying objects. So real quick before we depart, Mike Lee says, "Hey gang, I was one of the 5 people that bought and played Rise of the Tomb Raider on the PS4. Do you have any suggestions for a quick palate cleanser between Tomb Raider and Horizon Zero Dawn?" Or he said, "No Dawn, stop asking." I like that. Yeah, these games are kind of like similar in style. You got that kind of open world survival approach.
I mean, I'm assuming he's played the Uncharted games.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope because that's the go-to.
Uncharted?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, in terms of stuff that's coming out, this year is already off to like a stupidly good start for games. I don't know. We've got a little bit of time to kill. What are you guys playing?
We've been playing a lot of Resident Evil 7. Like me and Gav went to Japan to the studio that made it just before Christmas.
Yeah.
So we've like been exposed to that game for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But actually playing it, and because you guys both played it.
Yeah.
I played it. It was too scary.
So
scary.
yeah, we played the
it.
first 4 hours in Japan, and ever since we played that, we were like, I just want to play more.
Yeah.
And so we kind of both been rushing through that recently. We've played that several times.
I'm nuts deep into Stardew Valley.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just started that a couple weeks ago.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's it doesn't tell you anything when you start, and you're just kind of like, oh, well, here we go.
Yeah, I kept getting lost on the way back from town. I go to the bar, speak to the lady in the bar because she's going to be my wife.
Yep.
Like, definitely the girl with the blue hair, Cindy.
Yeah.
Her.
Are we still talking about gaming?
But
He's already cheating on the squid lady with the bar lady.
When you say you're nuts deep in that game, can you like grow nuts in that game?
You can grow a lot of things.
what he meant.
grow
Yes.
lots of stuff.
Yeah.
I've been planting this mixed seed stuff, and I'm pretty sure it's weed.
Max, if you're trying to grow pear, it's going to take a lot more than that.
Hey!
Got to get the pear seeds for the lady at the bar.
But it's basically like Animal Crossing, but it's been made by adults. So there's like a lot of, it's actually quite funny. Like it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on.
Are you suggesting Animal Crossing was made by children?
It was.
That's incredible.
Is that illegal? Like I think that's illegal. We're gonna have to
different laws in Japan, mate. Different laws. So
that's why the mobile games got delayed.
The kids grew up and they had to get new ones.
Get new kids.
but no, I mean, like it's been made for not just children. It's been made for adults. So there's like stories and stuff going on. Like there's one lady yesterday. She was really sad. Like her husband's gone off to war. Like you don't get that shit in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, well, there's also Justin Davis who works here was telling me about. There's like 2 characters that always like go into a house at the same time, and he's like, "Are they having an affair? Like, what's going on in this game?"
This is not what I thought this game was at all.
Yeah, it's very. Apparently, there's like a huge dungeon in that game with like 40. Like, there's a lot of deep stuff in that game. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Not what you'd expect. I'm really hoping it comes to Vita or something portable or this.
Well, this is the thing. I thought like on the way coming to the airport, I was like, man, that game needs to be on the Vita. And you said it was, but then I looked for it and I don't think it is.
I think they're porting it, but it's not.
It needs to be on Vita.
That entire game, everything top to bottom was made by one person. Music, sound, graphics.
They said if it's coming to Switch.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. See, that's good as well. Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Cool.
You can play it on your Switch for 3 hours, and then when it dies, you can switch.
Yeah.
Play it back again, which will die in 3 hours.
Looking forward to the Twitter comments about that. Anyway, we got to wrap things up because I think they're bringing animals in here to do a small pet show.
Yeah,
We're doing real life Animal Crossing right in here
Crossing.
today. I pitched that video 4 years ago. They said no.
Yeah.
I wanted to go in a furniture store and get a bunch of raccoons and put clothes on them.
I love when you pitch stuff in meetings like that, and then sometimes it does happen. Like we had a meeting where we were like, "Oh, can we recreate the Last Guardian trailer with a pug?" And they were like, "That'll never happen." And then they were like, "You've got to make this now." And we're like, "Oh shit!"
Well, yeah, you guys made that video.
Yeah, we actually.
That's
had to
right.
That
make
pug
it,
cost £500 for a day.
Yeah.
Really?
And it clocked off early.
Yeah.
But that's only like $5 American, right?
Garbage. What's that boss in Dark Souls that has the dog, the wolf that he hangs out with?
Sif.
Yeah, so we got this giant
hangs out
statue.
with.
I don't know, as if they're friends with the wolf or whatever. I have a little Pomeranian, and we were going to do an unboxing with this giant statue, and they're like, "Can we make your dog carry the sword around?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I was like looking at my calendar, and I'm like, "So when are we shooting this? When do I need to bring the dog in for his close up?" And they're like, "Oh, we already shot it." And I was like,
What? We noticed. Come on, guys.
We recast the dog.
Yeah. Who did you hire? Did you hire a dog?
That's true. I have an email thread where we're making casting decisions about dogs. Where I had to like pass on some dogs, like Kilby,
because they were
it's like, "Oh, we can recreate the trailer with my sister's dog." I looked at it, I was like,
Nah,
we need a cute.
That dog needs to lose some weight.
Yeah.
You know who else passes on dogs? It's millions of Americans every day, and you can fix that by heading down to the ASPCA, buying all the dogs there, and turning your house into a crazy zone.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said all that.
You can do all those things. Dogs love drywall. It's one of their favorite things to eat.
What?
I don't know. They probably love to eat walls. Anyway, Gav Krupa, where can people find you?
At Krupa on Twitter.
At Cymro Gav on Twitter. That means Welsh Gav. I wish I'd never done that.
Why?
And now you verify.
You could change it. Oh, now you're verified. You're done.
Can't do it. I mean, I'm proud of being Welsh, but no one knows how to say it.
Not as proud as you are of that blue check.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys, obviously, in addition to Prepare to Try, you've got other stuff in the works?
Yeah, we've got more of that. Like, we actually have no...
You got other stuff? No, just more of that. Just more
of that, really. Yeah, we're just going to be honest, we're just going to milk that for all it's worth.
Yeah. Sweet.
People were asking also, any plans for Superhero Show and Rebel Base making a comeback?
They're dead.
No? We killed them.
Thing is, like, we have very few people in the London office.
Yeah, it's only like 6
So if we're going to do new things, we have to stop doing other things.
Even fewer now because you're in our office.
Yeah.
Just left Rory over there.
And we locked the door, so you work here now.
Fire.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm Max Scoville on Twitter, and Brian is Agent Bizzle. Find these guys, say hello to them, and that's Beyond for this week. And if you want to write us an email, you can do that. It's just beyond@ign.com.
Boom.
That's the end of the show. The end. It's over.